loyal dog vanishes without a trace, and a wild mare begins acting strangely, refusing food, staring into the distance, as if sensing something no one else can. Days later, under a moonlit sky, she breaks free and charges into the desert, following nothing but a memory, and a bond forged in silence. What she finds will leave you speechless. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and tell us in the comments where in the world you're watching from. Make sure to watch this video till the end, because in the final moments you'll see the journey from an entirely new perspective. Now let's jump into the story. In the wide open land beyond the Crimson Ridge, the wind carried something strange. It wasn't the usual rustle of dry grass or the far-off cry of coyotes. It was silence. Thick, heavy silence that felt like it didn't belong. And Ember, the tall mare with a streak of white down her nose, noticed it. For days, Ember had stopped her morning trot. Normally, when the sun crept over the hills, she would stand at the edge of the fence, ears forward, eyes scanning the ridge. She used to do it for one reason: Jasper. Jasper was an old golden retriever with fur like burnt honey and a gentle face. He had a limp from an old injury and the patience of a saint. Ember trusted few, but Jasper was different. He never rushed her, never shouted like some people did. When she had first come to Haven Hollow, wild and scared, Jasper had simply sat outside her pen for hours, sometimes for whole days. Eventually, she had come closer. Trust had bloomed, silent and steady, but Jasper was gone now. Some at the sanctuary believed he had wandered off into the desert to pass quietly, as older animals sometimes do. Tully, the sanctuary's lead caretaker, had looked sad, but not surprised. Maybe he just wanted peace, he had said. Ember didn't believe that. The silence felt wrong, empty in the worst way. Every night Ember grew more restless. She paced the fence, dug at the ground, and called out into the night air with sharp whinnies. Tully and the volunteers noticed. "She's acting strange," said Boone, the teenage volunteer with soft hands and a shy smile. She misses him. But Ember didn't just miss Jasper. She knew he wasn't where they thought he was. 3 nights before Jasper disappeared, a battered blue pickup truck had been seen passing the edge of the sanctuary land. No one had thought much of it then, but Ember had. She had seen it. She had smelled the smoke, the grease, and something else. Something she couldn't name but remembered from long ago. That truck belonged to Clint Morrow. Clint was a loner who had built a shack far out near the dried-up riverbed. He told folks he trained dogs, but those who knew him, or had seen his yard full of rusted chains and skinny, silent animals, knew better. He didn't train. He broke. Jasper had met Clint once before, years back, when Clint had come to the sanctuary offering to fix a dog that barked too much. Tully had sent him away. Since then, Clint had stayed clear. Until now. No one knew Clint had taken Jasper. He had driven through the dark, quiet and hidden, with Jasper bound and gagged beneath a tarp in the truck bed. The old dog had fought. He had growled, but Clint had overpowered him. "Let's see if that loyalty of yours lasts when you're hungry," Clint had muttered as he locked Jasper in a shed behind his cabin. Inside that dark shed, Jasper lay chained. The sun was nothing but a shadow through the slats. His ribs showed and flies buzzed around his nose, but his eyes, though dulled, still carried fire. At Haven Hollow, Ember's fire was growing too. She stopped eating. She refused to move when Tully called her. She stood at the gate still and straight like a soldier on guard. And then one night the wind shifted. Ember's ears pricked forward. She smelled something old but familiar. Dust, rust, and something like fear. Her hooves shifted, her body tensed. The moment came quietly. She stepped back from the fence, then ran. Hard, fast, straight into the gate. Crack, again. Crack, one more. With a loud snap of wood and metal, the gate burst open. Ember stood there for a moment, breathing hard, then galloped out into the desert, leaving hoofprints in the moonlit dust. By morning, the staff found the broken gate and followed the trail. "She didn't run off," Tully said, staring at the prints that led toward the Crimson Ridge. "She's looking for something." "No, Boone said softly, eyes wide. She's looking for someone. Back at Clint's place, Jasper lifted his head slowly. His ears twitched. From far away, across the plains and over the hot air, a sound was coming. Hoofbeats, strong, steady, growing louder. Jasper didn't move. Not yet. But something in his chest stirred. She was coming, and this time, she would not be too late. The desert wasn't kind to travelers. The days were hot enough to burn and the nights could cut like ice. But Ember didn't slow down. With each step, her hooves kicked up dry dust, and the wind pulled at her black mane like it was trying to hold her back. She didn't care. Something, deeper than reason, pushed her forward. Something stronger than fear. The trail wasn't clear. There were no signs to follow, no scent she could trust. But Ember didn't need signs. She had memory. She remembered Jasper, not just his face or his voice, but the way he had stood beside her when she was broken and scared. Long ago, Ember had arrived at Haven Hollow after being rescued from a frozen canyon. She'd been half-starved, her legs cut and bruised, her heart full of fear. She trusted no one, neither human nor animal. But Jasper hadn't tried to force her to do anything. He simply lay near her pen, every day, rain or shine. He didn't ask for anything. He just stayed. One night, when a sudden snowstorm rolled in, the shelter lost power. Tully had tried to bring the animals inside, but there wasn't room for all. Ember had refused to go near the barn. She panicked, rearing and kicking. Tully had no choice but to leave her in the open paddock, covered in blankets. That night, Ember nearly froze. But when the morning came, the staff found Jasper curled beside her. He had squeezed through the broken fence and pressed himself close to keep her warm. His body trembled from the cold, but he hadn't moved once. That was the night Ember stopped being afraid. Now it was her turn to return what couldn't be repaid. Far away, at the edge of the wasteland, Jasper lay still in the dim shed. The chain around his neck rubbed raw against his fur. The floor was hard and dry. His breaths were shallow. Every few hours, Clint came in and tossed a dirty bowl of water toward him. Still holding out? Clint sneered. We'll see how long that lasts. Clint didn't want to train Jasper. He wanted to crush him. He hated the spark in the old dog's eyes, the one that refused to go out. You're too proud for your own good, he growled. But pride won't feed you. Jasper never growled back. He just watched, quiet, waiting. Back at the sanctuary, Boone sat on the fence staring at the horizon. He had a map spread across his knees and a red marker in his hand. She's not just wandering, he told Tully. She's heading somewhere. You think she knows where Jasper is? Boone nodded. Animals don't forget. Not the important things. Tully sighed. Even if she finds him, what then? She's not going to leave him behind, Boone said. Not after what he did for her. Out in the wild, Ember crossed dry riverbeds and climbed rocky hills. Her legs burned. Her body ached. Still, she moved. The sun climbed high and sweat soaked her dark coat. But when the wind shifted, she paused. A scent old, faint, but familiar. She turned east and ran harder. Near sunset, she reached the rusted fence of an old property. The land was quiet. Too quiet. A crow called from the roof of a cabin. Ember slowed, ears forward. Her eyes scanned the ground. There, a set of dog tracks, deep, dragged. Her heart pounded. She followed them around the side of a cabin until she reached a wooden shed with a dented metal door. Her breath caught. She stepped forward. Inside, Jasper's ears twitched. He knew that sound. He knew her. Then with a loud snort and a sudden crash, Ember slammed her hooves into the shed door. Bang once, bang twice. The door cracked. She reared and slammed down again. Bang! It burst open. Dust flew. Light spilled in. Jasper blinked, eyes adjusting. Then he saw her, strong, fierce, and beautiful. She stepped inside, nudged the chain around his neck, and pulled. The chain groaned, but didn't move. She tried again. This time it shifted. Slowly, Jasper's body inched forward. Then came the sound Ember had hoped to avoid. The door of the cabin flew open. Clint stepped out, face red with rage, a thick stick in one hand. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he shouted. Jasper tried to move but collapsed. Clint stormed forward, grabbing the chain and yanking it hard. Jasper yelped, paws scrambling against the dirt. Clint raised the stick. Ember moved. She stepped in front of Jasper, blocking the blow. She reared up, hooves slicing the air, eyes locked on Clint. The sun behind her made her glow like fire. She didn't move. She didn't flinch. She dared him. For the first time, Clint hesitated, and somewhere in the distance, an engine roared. The air hung heavy as if the desert itself was holding its breath. Clint Morrow stood frozen at the edge of the shed, one hand gripping the chain, the other holding a thick wooden stick raised high. His face was red, twisted with anger, but he wasn't moving. He was staring at Ember. The mare stood between him and Jasper, tall and unmoving, her hooves planted in the dirt, chest heaving from the effort. Her eyes didn't blink. Her ears were pointed forward. Her shadow stretched long in the golden evening light. She wasn't backing down. Clint wasn't used to being challenged. Not by animals, not like this. Especially not by a horse. "You stupid thing," he growled, lowering the stick just an inch. "Move. You don't know who you're messing with." But Ember didn't budge. Behind her, Jasper lay still, sides barely rising with each breath. His fur was matted, his eyes dull, but his gaze remained fixed on her. He had come here alone. He had accepted pain. But now she was here, and she wouldn't leave without him. Clint's knuckles turned white around the stick. "I said move!" Still, Ember didn't move. Instead, she stepped forward. One step. A warning. Dust kicked up. Around her hooves, Clint raised the stick again. Then, a sound, an engine, fast, a truck. From the edge of the hill, an old red pickup burst into view, tires spinning across the sand. It skidded to a stop near the fence. The door slammed open. Lena jumped out first, phone in her hand, already recording. Boone climbed out behind her, eyes wide, heart pounding. "Hey!" Lena shouted. "Step away from the dog!" Clint turned, startled. His eyes flicked to the phone. "I'm calling the police," Lena said, holding it up. "You're being filmed. Drop the stick." Clint hesitated, eyes bouncing between the phone, the boy, and the towering mare in front of him. "You've got no right to be here," he barked. "You've got no right to hurt animals," Boone said firmly. His voice didn't shake. "Let go of the chain," Lena warned. "Right now." Clint looked at Ember once more. Her muscles were tight, her breath sharp. She was ready to strike. And for the first time, Clint saw it. This wasn't just some barn horse. This was a protector. He dropped the stick. The sound it made when it hit the dirt was small, but it felt loud. Slowly, Clint let go of the chain and stepped back. Lena rushed forward. Boone followed, already pulling out a small bolt cutter from his backpack. Together, they knelt beside Jasper. "It's okay, boy," Boone whispered, reaching for the chain. "You're safe now." Ember stepped aside but didn't leave his side. One quick snap and the chain clattered loose. Jasper let out a soft, tired sound, something like a sigh of relief. Boone gently lifted him onto a blanket, and with Lena's help, they placed him in the back of the truck. Clint stood silently at the side of the shed, breathing hard. His eyes were dark, but he said nothing. Moments later, a sheriff's car pulled up behind Lena's truck, lights flashing red and blue in the fading sun. They had seen the footage. They had seen enough. Clint was taken away in handcuffs, shouting about how no dog ever defied him and got away with it. But his voice was fading now, just like his power. Ember stayed near the truck, watching until Clint disappeared down the road. Back at Haven Hollow, the sun was beginning to set. The staff had cleared a new pen beside Ember's, freshly built, clean and quiet. Tully stood at the gate as the truck rolled in. Boone gently carried Jasper inside. The old dog was weak, but his eyes were brighter now. He saw the fence, saw the familiar ground, and he saw Ember walking beside him, one slow step at a time. They stopped beside each other, pen to pen, and just like before, they didn't speak. They didn't need to. That night, Ember stood close to the fence, her head hanging low, almost touching Jasper's side through the rails. And Jasper? He didn't move much, but his tail gave a small, slow wag. The sanctuary was quiet again, but this time, it was a peaceful quiet, the kind of silence that meant home. As stars appeared in the sky, visitors started to arrive. Word had already spread. People wanted to see the dog who had once saved a frightened mare from the cold, and the mare who had crossed a desert to save her friend from a chain. They didn't come just for a story. They came for hope. And Ember and Jasper? They gave it, just by being there together side by side. The mornings at Haven Hollow were quiet again, but this time the silence felt right. The kind of calm that came after a storm had passed. The air was cooler, softer, like even the wind had decided to rest. Jasper lay in the soft hay just inside his new pen. His body was still healing. He moved a little slower now, and his steps were careful. But his spirit? That hadn't changed. His eyes were brighter. His ears perked up when someone called his name. His tail wagged again, even if only a little. Right beside him through the fence was Ember. The two stayed close. Wherever Jasper lay, Ember stood nearby, her head resting near the edge of the pen. If Jasper slept, Ember watched. If Ember grazed in the yard, Jasper sat where he could see her. They didn't need words. Their bond was something deeper, something made not from sound but from actions. Visitors started arriving just days after their return. At first it was just a few, locals who had heard what happened. Then came families, photographers, even a news crew. They all wanted to see the dog who once saved a frightened horse, and the horse who crossed a desert to bring him home. But the ones who stayed the longest were the quiet ones, children who had been through hard times, old men who had known loneliness, people who just needed to believe that loyalty still meant something, and when they looked at Jasper and Ember, resting side by side, they believed it. Boone, the teenage volunteer, became one of their biggest protectors. Every morning he made sure their pens were clean, their water fresh, and their space calm. He read stories to them sometimes, just to fill the air with kindness. They remind me of something, he told Lena one day. Like how the ones we help can become the ones who help us later. Like it's all part of the same circle. Lena nodded. That's what love does. It comes back around. Weeks passed. Jasper grew stronger. His fur began to shine again, and he even barked a few times, sharp and clear, just like before. Ember returned to her peaceful ways too. No more pacing, no more staring toward the ridge. She had found what she was searching for. And then one rainy evening just before closing, a truck arrived at the sanctuary gates. It wasn't loud or fast, just slow and steady. A woman stepped out holding a small bundle in her arms. Tully met her at the gate. "Can I help you?" The woman looked down at the bundle, wet, shaking, eyes wide with fear. A young foal. "I found her alone," the woman said softly. "By the roadside. No mother in sight. They brought the foal in, wrapped her in blankets, and gave her a place in the recovery stall near Ember's pen. She was scared. She wouldn't eat. She trembled whenever someone came close. But that night something unexpected happened. Jasper, tired but curious, got up and slowly walked to the edge of his pen. He looked toward the foal's stall. And then, like he'd done once before with Ember, he lay down near the fence and waited. He didn't bark. He didn't move. He just stayed. The next morning, Ember approached too. She leaned close to the stall and gave the foal a soft nudge with her nose. The foal didn't run. She didn't cry. She just looked at them, eyes wide, legs shaking, and stayed close. From that moment on, the three were often seen together, the old dog, the wild mare, and the orphaned foal. A strange trio perhaps, but a perfect one. Visitors began calling the foal Hope. Boone liked that name best. Hope is what you find when you think all is lost, he whispered one day, brushing Ember's mane. And sometimes it finds you first. As time passed, the sanctuary turned their story into a small corner garden with a sign. It read, Side by Side, a story of loyalty, courage, and return. Pictures of Jasper and Ember hung beneath it, with space left open for Hope when she was older. Children sat there to listen to Boone tell the tale. Teachers brought their classes. Families left letters at the fence, thanking the animals for reminding them what kindness looks like. But through all of it, Jasper and Ember stayed the same, side by side, quiet and strong. On the last page of the guest book, someone had scribbled a note. Sometimes, the ones we save come back for us, not because they owe us, but because they remember what love feels like, and choose to return it, no matter the cost. And under that, Boone had written one simple word, always.